What's up YouTube? What's up world? It's your boy Marky Mark back with another video. And today, as you can tell by the topic, we're going to be talking about the Virgin Islands Department of Education. Now, I actually did this topic today because one of my subscribers recently reached out to me and asked me, as of doing like the video, things to know before moving to the U.S. Virgin Islands, they basically asked a really good question, and I'll read it. The first part at least, they say, how is the school system and the people with disabilities? Thinking about moving my family down here to, basically to the Virgin Islands. I've actually never thought about it before because the school system is one of the things that you would want to learn about, especially when moving down here from the US mainland. I guess the reason why I didn't even mention it before is the reason why most people move down here is after they retire, or once again they're basically looking for a different pace in life and so forth. And I neglected the fact that yes, there would be people looking to move down here to the Virgin Islands, to the US Virgin Islands, who have children. I have 3 children who currently are all the way attending school on the US mainland. To be honest with you, if I move my children down here, I would actually have them in private school, at least depending on their ages. Like let's say they're of elementary age. So I'll say from kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade at least, because that's the same way I basically did it. Up until the 8th grade, I was actually in private school. For my education, I went to one of the parochial schools, which there are actually several on the island of St. Thomas. So off the top of my head right now, I could think about 6 parochial schools. When I say parochial schools, that's schools that are attached to a church. We have like Anglican Church, Catholic Church, Wesleyan Academy, which I went to for elementary. We have Seventh-day Adventist Church. There's another church up in the country associated to a church. There are about 2 other schools that I know of. I just can't remember the names off the top of my head that are associated with church and do go up to 8th grade, 2 or 3 additional. So in totality, about 7 or 8 parochial schools that you could send your children to, and they are of course private schools. I think, from my understanding, they actually do get food as part of the lunch program with the public schools. That's how they do get food. There are other private schools. There's one major private school on the island, which is Antilles School, which goes all the way from kindergarten all the way up to the 12th grade. And there is also Peter Gruber Academy, aka Montezuma School, which is on the eastern end of the island, which also does the same thing, go all the way from grades K through 12, which are on the island. So once again, because the particular subscriber reached out to me and asked me, I'm giving my honest opinion of what I would do. Of course, these schools, being private schools, they do charge you a monthly fee. So that will be the one thing also that would help you to make your decision. Of course, the last 2 that I mentioned, Antilles School and the Montessori schools, being the ones on the higher end, like I think over $1,000 per month for tuition. Now they do have like scholastic programs, scholarship programs, where you can get a scholarship to go to those schools in case you don't make the necessary amount to go to those schools. And those schools, of course, tend to have, because we do have a mixture, living in the Virgin Islands, we're predominantly black. I don't like to use that word, black or white. That stuff only come up within the last 400 years. But anyway, moving aside from that, because that's what society uses, is predominantly black. The population down here in the US Virgin Islands is predominantly black. And the people who, the white people, for lack of a better word, do choose to send their children to one of the last 2 schools I mentioned, which would be Antilles School or Montessori schools. My daughter, when she was younger, like kindergarten and the first few years of elementary school, she did go to a Montessori school in the States. So now that I think about it, all my children, the younger 2 are actually in Montessori school as well. And but that one is a publicly funded one, so I'll have to mention that. So In terms of if you're going to private school, or if you do choose to send your children to private school, as I'm suggesting for the earlier and formative years up through, if possible, K through 8th grade, that's graduating junior high or leaving junior high 8th grade and going into high school at 9th grade, I would suggest putting them into private school if you're down here. Hopefully you can afford it. If not, hopefully you can seek some kind of financial assistance for going to those schools as well that I mentioned. Because you do, of course, you're paying for it, and 9 times out of 10, if you're paying for it, your children are getting better educated by going to those schools as well. Moving on to the public school system, which is where I graduated from. The public school system has went through major changes over the years. Of course, it's being run by government, and the government itself has went through so many changes through the years as well. I think there's a time when I think the high school that I graduated from, which was the Charlotte Amalie High School on St. Thomas, did either lose or was in trouble because they actually were in trouble. They might have lost their, they were going to lose their accreditation. But any which way, they are accredited now and so forth. And still, in putting your children in those schools, after the hurricanes of 2017, like, stuff has really been degraded because a lot of the schools shut down, which I have a problem with. They closed down a lot of schools, citing problems such as molds and issues with the structures and so forth. And they put in temporary classrooms, modular classrooms, for the schools that were damaged and so forth. This has been over 5 years ago. Excuse me, we still don't have any new schools that the students can actually go into and learn from without, in a normal, as I would like to say, school environment. And that, as I would like to mention, has been tasking for not only the students alone, but the teachers most importantly. And the teachers are being stressed out. It's not good to be in an environment where you're stressed, the children are stressed, everybody's stressed, you know what I'm saying? So that's why, like, even at this moment, I'll suggest, if you can, even just let your children stay in high school for the whole range of things. Because back in the days, yes, the public school system was a system which I would recommend you put your children into, but of late, especially the last 5 years, since the hurricane especially, it has been severely degraded. A lot of families have left the islands, as I mentioned in my one video. The population has dropped over 15% from what it used to be in previous years, or from the 2010 census to the 2020 census. The population of the U.S. Virgin Islands has severely dropped. A lot of people have actually moved away to the States to live and taken their children with them. One of my best friends included did move in recent years to Texas. His girls have since graduated high school. He went because they basically his children were athletes, and in order to get them in a better opportunity, a better space where they could secure, for example, let's say a scholarship to go to college, he did make that choice to go. And most people are actually making similar choices as well, especially if their children are into sports. Me, for example, I do graphic design and so forth. And I spoke to, when I came back here in 2010, I was working with the youth at my church for several years. And one girl spoke to me and she was explaining to me that they didn't even have like a graphics design class that she could take at a local high school. I remember when I took, because I went to DeVry first, after my first 4 years, I think in 2002 or 2004, I decided to go back to school for graphic design. When I went to school for graphic design, it's a good thing I'm a self-learned person. I self-taught myself to do most of what I knew and did for building websites and so forth. But the children who were coming in fresh from high school, they already had been trained. They had already had like 2-3 years of graphic design on the computers, working on the computers and knowing the programs that we use. As I mentioned, I had a Mac. That's the first time I even touched a Apple MacBook in my life when I went to school, AIU in Atlanta. And those children already had Macs, all that stuff. As a matter of fact, I was so accustomed to Windows computers, I didn't take out my Mac until I had a class where the app that I needed, which was, I think, Adobe Illustrator, was already loaded on my Mac. So that's the only reason I broke out my Mac and started using it. I've been using it ever since. So I'm just saying that to say the children down here at a very serious disadvantage. I've spoken to one teacher who said the teachers are basically stressed out now. I don't even think they have a graphic design program, as I was talking about right now, in the public high school, which, as I say, it serves as a major disadvantage for children who want to go into this avenue and they can't get into that avenue. So, as I would like to mention, as I have been mentioning, overall, I would say, I would have said like it was 50-50 back in the days, but right now, the best choice would be, if you do bring your children down here, to bring them and put them in the school system. The best bet would be to put them into the private school system. And that is my advice. Speaking to someone who has lived in the Virgin Islands for over 20 years and been through the school system, graduated even in the public school systems. Like I said, that it was better in yesteryears, but now the way the climate is, everything wise, economically, you know what I mean? And more specifically when it comes down to education, your best bet will be to have them in private education for the remainder of their years while they're in school, and primary and secondary school. All right, so I was just dropping that short little video because I noticed I had never spoken on that, and that's something that is very, very important, education in the Virgin Islands, okay? Hopefully that funding that we do get, when we get the funding, could get where it needs to go and things could get better. But as for right now, that's basically the way the cookie crumbles. All right, this has been another edition of M. Blyden Vlogs. Want to thank you guys for watching the video, and be prepared for the next one, which actually I might actually do my first live video coming up, hopefully tomorrow. I hope to post this video on Tuesday evening and then do my first actually live video, a Q&A of sorts. So if you want, go ahead and post some questions that you'd like me to answer under this same video, of questions you'd like me to answer, any and anything about the Virgin Islands, as I said, as I like to mention. All right, peace up, love you guys. This is Marky Mark signing out, saying make sure to leave your mark on the world. VI to the world, world.